passion for music. He majored in music in college, showing a real gift for playing instruments, especially stringed ones. He could play the guitar like it was second nature. When Johnny was a senior in high school, he joined a rock and roll cover band. In addition to playing in the school band and orchestra, he loved playing both Spanish-style guitar and electric rock. Music was just his thing. Being in a rock band got him some attention from girls, though he was only 18, the youngest member in the group. He played lead guitar while the band had a drummer, a bassist, a keyboardist, and a strong female singer named Ginger Baker. Johnny's arrival in the band expanded their range. He could play anything, so they covered all sorts of music. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Counting Crows, and more. One fun part of their show was taking song requests from the audience, making them quite popular, especially after Johnny joined. He made decent money for a high school student, but he was shy and saved most of it. He didn't date much, though he could have easily. High school girls and even some older women were interested. Ginger, who was 20, often thought about making a move on Johnny. On stage, they had undeniable chemistry. They'd face each other while playing and singing, and people in the crowd thought it looked romantic. But for Johnny, it was all about the music. He loved the adrenaline rush of performing, but he was too shy to pursue anything off stage. Ginger, despite her attraction to Johnny, kept things professional. This underlying tension between them may have been what fueled their electric performances. Ginger had fiery red hair and a confident presence on stage, and though Johnny liked her, he never admitted it. His reserved nature held him back, even in his own thoughts. At school, not many people knew Johnny was in a band, mostly because they performed in bars and venues where high school kids weren't usually allowed. Some classmates knew, but the band often played 3 or 4 nights a week for older audiences. His teachers, especially his music teachers, were aware. In fact, 2 of them had seen the band live. Jake Bishop, who taught Johnny classical guitar, was amazed when he saw Johnny perform with the band. Mary Davis, the school's violin teacher and Jake's partner, went with him to the show. She recognized Johnny immediately. Johnny was talented on the violin as well and sometimes filled in with the school orchestra when a violinist was absent. During the band's shows, he played a fiddle tune, "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," and performed both fiddle parts. When Jake and Mary saw Johnny perform, they were impressed. The following Monday at school, they asked him about his performances with the band, curious and excited to hear more. He told them he loved playing rock music and shared his passion for it, asking them to keep it quiet. He didn't seek fame and was naturally shy. Johnny's parents weren't thrilled about the late nights but appreciated the extra money he contributed to the grocery bill. His father worked at a grocery store, and his mother worked part-time at the same place. They made enough to get by, but there wasn't much left over. Johnny's first guitar was a big purchase for the family, but it turned out to be worth it. Once he joined the band, he could afford his own instruments. He owned 3 guitars, a violin, and a banjo, with a piano at home as well. Johnny made it through high school and enrolled in State University, a huge institution. Thanks to his music talents and teacher recommendations, he was accepted straight into the main campus without needing to start at a smaller branch. Before finishing high school, Johnny had a gig near home just after Valentine's Day, about a month after his 18th birthday. The band wrapped up their set around 11 o'clock. Ginger, a friend, offered to give him a ride home but invited him to her apartment instead. She lived alone, though she had a boyfriend. Johnny had visited her place a few times after their shows, so he didn't think much of it when she asked him in. However, once the door was closed, Ginger surprised him with an intense kiss. Johnny was caught off guard but started to relax, enjoying the moment. Ginger pulled back and said with a smile, "I've wanted to do that for a while." They shared a close moment, appreciating each other's company. Later, they spent time together talking and bonding, and Johnny left feeling a bit different, knowing he had crossed into a new stage of his life. He was a bit taller and bigger than the usual guys she dated, and she felt a special thrill in sharing these new moments with him. Later, she showed him some different ways to connect, and by morning, they were trying out new things together. Now that he was 18, Johnny's time with Ginger felt more meaningful. She expected it to be this way. They would go away together in the summer. She would take her camper van, and they would share these moments after their shows. Sometimes they would find quick moments during breaks. By the time Johnny was ready for university, he had learned a lot. He was not as shy anymore, but still kept a humble side since he had only been with one woman. Ginger and the band felt sad when he left. The band knew their earnings would drop. They had someone to step in, but it wouldn't be the same without Johnny. They did find a good replacement since they were a popular group in the area. Ginger was heartbroken because she had come to rely on Johnny for comfort, and she might have started to care for him more than she realized. A few nights, she found herself in tears. Johnny promised to visit during the Christmas break. They even scheduled 2 performances for him then. But Johnny was looking ahead to new experiences which felt a bit daunting. Jimbo Jones, the bass player from the Royals, received a call from another bassist who wanted to know about their lead guitarist, who was now at the university. Jimbo gave him a great review. In his second week at school, Johnny was in his math class when he noticed a woman who took his breath away. She was tall, with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and she had a warm smile. When she spoke, her voice was deep and pleasant. Curious, he asked someone nearby about her as they left class. "That's Joy Simmons. She's a junior, and honestly, she's the best-looking woman I've ever seen." "She sure seems that way," Johnny replied, making sure to attend every math class from then on. Johnny enrolled in several music courses, playing classical guitar and a string quartet. He took a class on music history and a piano course. One day, Johnny was at the piano just playing around. He started playing a lively tune and really got into it. When he ended with a flourish, he heard applause coming from behind him. It was Joy Simmons. "Hi," she said, clapping. "Well done." Johnny felt unusually confident. "Thanks, I really appreciate it." "Do you get a lot of applause?" she asked. "Well, yes, but mainly for guitar. I used to play in a band." "Really? What band?" "A cover band called the Royals. I played in high school." "I've heard of them. You must be more than just a typical high school band. What was your role?" "I was the lead guitarist." "Oh, so you're Johnny." "Yes. How do you know that?" "I know Ginger. We were friends in high school. I lived close to her." Once she told me about her talented young guitarist, Joy flashed a bright, charming smile at Johnny. Johnny felt himself blush. We were close. We are close, really. But you're not in that band now that you're here, right? Only during breaks. They found a new lead. I know. They took him from my band, offered him more money. Maybe some perks. I'm not sure. He was involved with my drummer and me. You have a band here? Yep, and we need a lead guitarist. Interested? Is it a rock band? Country band? What kind? Alt-rock and some country. We're doing okay. Maybe you could come to our garage studio and give it a try. Johnny was excited. This woman was beautiful, and he knew she would be the singer. They arranged for him to come over off campus at 7 in the evening. The garage studio was large. Harry Billingsley, the drummer, came from a well-off family. They had turned a barn into a practice space. Johnny arrived, looked around, and was impressed. He brought his electric guitar and a banjo since they mentioned doing some country music. They set up, and he met the band. Joy was indeed the lead singer. Harry played drums, Bob Leto was on bass, and Jerry Highsmith played keyboards and sometimes fiddle. They all sang at different times, mostly in harmony. They had some original songs and wanted to start with one that Harry wrote called Sad Song. It began slowly and built up to a strong finish. It wasn't easy for the lead guitarist, but Johnny didn't have to sing on that one. He looked at the music, played around a bit, and added his own bluesy feel to the hook. He looked up at the others. "Okay, let's try it." The band seemed unsure, but they got ready, and Johnny ran the intro. When they started the song, Joy's voice was rough and great for the blues style. Johnny followed their lead until it was his turn to take the lead. He gave the song a bluesy feel, and the keyboard picked up the energy. They played faster and harder, finishing with a loud ending. Johnny hit a long, high note at the end, using some reverb. Then it was done. "Oh my!" Joy exclaimed happily. "Wow, that was fantastic! Different! You're hired!" It took Johnny about 2 weeks to learn the songs, practicing together at night in the garage. They had a show scheduled for the coming Friday and Saturday at a popular bar. Johnny should have felt nervous, but he didn't. He always loved playing. However, he would have to sing harmony with Joy on a slow song. The previous guitarist had done it. Johnny was unsure about his singing. He knew he could do harmony, it was easy, but he wasn't certain how well it would sound. They had practiced, but he hadn't listened to the recordings. He would just have to give it a go. The Friday show was at a local pub with a decent-sized room and a small stage. The audience sat at tables, most of them having eaten. The show began at 8. The band chose to perform a lively rock song first, complete with a long guitar solo. Johnny played exceptionally well. The audience responded with loud applause, and the performance was off to a great start. Joy's singing mesmerized Johnny and the crowd. She could sing any song, whether upbeat or a slow ballad. Together, she and Johnny created a rhythm that complemented each other perfectly. The show was a big hit, and after a few more songs, the audience clapped for more. Johnny took out his banjo and told the band, "I got this." He stepped forward, sat on a stool, and played Foggy Mountain Breakdown. At first, the crowd seemed unsure, but soon they got into it. After finishing, Johnny took a bow and the band left the stage. Outside the bar, they celebrated with high fives. Joy gave Johnny a big smile and said, "You were fantastic. You were amazing too, along with everyone else. I love performing." The next show on Saturday was in a larger venue near campus. News about their band spread quickly and the place was packed. The performance went great, leaving the band feeling really excited. The day after a big show always left Johnny feeling a bit down. Sundays were usually spent in his dorm room practicing classical guitar, which helped him find peace. Johnny had become an important member of a popular local band called the Prawls. The semester passed quickly, with the band performing around twice a week. They could have played more, but Johnny, Joy, and Bob were still in school and wanted to keep their grades up. Harry and Jerry, who had graduated, were now focusing on writing new songs, with some turning out really well. During break, Johnny returned home where his family was delighted to hear about his band. He mentioned he would help pay for his remaining tuition for now. He then visited his old band. Ginger was happy to see him and shared news about upcoming shows. Joe Dash, the new lead guitarist, would also be joining them, and they would perform together. Johnny agreed, and they had a practice session before the first show. He met Joe Dash, a tall man in his late 20s with dark hair. They introduced themselves, and Joe asked about Johnny's previous band. "Heard Joy sang really well," he said. "She did," Johnny replied, "but she's just part of the band for now." "That's cool. We had a good chemistry in the practice." Johnny played a little more reserved, but he felt comfortable with their new setup. Joe couldn't really keep up with Johnny when he went all out. Their first show was at an auditorium out of town. The crowd enjoyed it, though there wasn't any dancing, just a lot of drinking. The performance went well, especially when they got to the guitar duel part. Joe started strong, and Johnny followed, playing great but holding back a little. Joe pushed harder, but then Johnny completely stole the show with his skills. That was the highlight. They wrapped up the night with a final song and an encore. As they were heading outside, Ginger approached Johnny and kissed him passionately. Joe quietly slipped away and Ginger led Johnny to the van, where they enjoyed each other's company. Afterward, Johnny asked her about Joe. "Joe's a good musician. He's nice enough, but he's not you and he knows it," Ginger said. "How are things with Joy?" "Joy and I get along well on stage, but we're just friends." "Who's she dating?" "I'm not sure." "Why?" "Because, Johnny, when we got closer, the band got better. You know what I mean?" "Oh, I see what you're saying," Johnny replied thoughtfully. The next show the following week was even better. Johnny found himself thinking more about what Ginger had said. It made some sense, especially for a band with a singer who was more passionate when there was a stronger connection. Back at campus, Johnny had a show coming up with his college band, the Proles. With that in mind, he decided to talk to Joy. "Joy, when I was back home, Joe was with Ginger. Then she came back to me while I was there. She said something interesting, that if we were closer, the show might be better. I'm open to that." Joy smiled but looked thoughtful. "Johnny, that might be true. But I feel differently about you than I did with Joe. I've been hesitant because I'm not sure if it's just for the show or something more." Johnny felt a little disheartened. "Well, I really care about you. You're smart, talented, beautiful, and you've got the best voice I've heard in a long time." Joy smiled warmly at his words. She walked over to him and stood close, staring into his eyes. There was a moment between them, full of unspoken feelings. She leaned in gently, brushing her lips against his, but then she pulled away slowly. "After the next show?" she said with a smile, then walked away. The following show was incredible. Joy and Johnny shared a strong connection on stage that made their performance even more electric. She playfully teased him during the set, and Johnny's playing was full of energy. The final encore felt like a release of everything they had built up, and the crowd erupted with excitement. After the performance, Joy pulled Johnny into the bus. They spent time together, growing closer than ever before. The bond between them was strong, and after that, Johnny realized he was falling in love with her. Joy told him she felt the same. Their chemistry on stage only grew stronger, and soon, they started attracting attention. One day, a representative from a recording company noticed their talent and approached them. Their journey together was just beginning. He wanted to create a live album that would be made from several upcoming shows. The band talked to someone Harry knew about the contract they were offered. After a few changes, they signed it. The contract was fair, splitting the earnings evenly for one album. They prepared some new songs for the next performances. 3 of the shows were in larger venues, but the first one would be in a smaller bar. They planned to keep things more relaxed for that show and have more fun during the other 3. The smaller show featured some slow songs where Joy and Johnny played their instruments softly. During one of the slow songs, Joy noticed Johnny getting a bit too excited. She teased him playfully. The venue was small with people close by. Johnny played gently, using his acoustic guitar. Then he picked up the pace. The music built up, and the whole atmosphere was energetic. Once they finished, there was a brief moment of silence before the crowd erupted in applause. The acoustic show ended up being part of their live album. The next 3 shows contributed to a second album. The contract was updated and everyone earned some money. Both albums were released at the end of Johnny's first year in school. They went on a supporting tour afterward. Joy and Johnny were so excited about their relationship that by the end of the summer tour, they decided to get married. It was a small wedding with only family, the band, and a few friends. Ginger attended as well. Johnny was pleased to see her, and she seemed to be doing well. Her band was having success and creating their own music. Johnny was focused on finishing school. He signed up for several required courses to get them done together. He enjoyed math and computer courses because they reminded him of music. The band played 2 shows a week at nearby venues, with all of them selling out. Their albums were selling well. However, they made the most money during the summer tour, and another tour was planned for the next year. Meanwhile, the couple's relationship had many ups and downs. There were times when they just enjoyed being close and peaceful with one another. Johnny liked those moments the most. Joy was set to graduate at the end of the year, while Johnny still had 2 years left. The band wanted to increase the number of local shows and travel further. After the first semester, Johnny agreed. At this point, he was making more money playing in the band than he would likely earn with a degree. But he knew that money wasn't everything. In the spring, they planned to travel up to 300 miles for shows. If they went that far, they would perform for 2 nights. Johnny liked that because the second night always had an even more exciting energy. He was struggling in most of his courses except for music. With determination, he finished the year with passing grades. Johnny did really well in the class for playing classical violin. He got really into it and spent a lot of time practicing. His teacher, Millie Smith, suggested that he could keep playing the violin and maybe even join a big orchestra if he worked hard. Johnny told her that his band's summer tour would stop him from doing any summer work. But he promised to take his violin with him, along with the fiddle he used in the show. The summer tour was a big hit. The band took a 2-week break in late July to make a studio album. Johnny wrote 3 of the songs. They finished recording just in time. Although Johnny wasn't completely happy with the final result, the album became very popular when it was released in August and reached number 1. They signed a new contract, and Joy told him they would get a bigger share this time. The other band members didn't mind because they knew Joy and Johnny were key to their success. They were all doing well. Johnny saved most of his money and learned about investing, putting some of it into funds. This way, he didn't have to worry about money too much. Johnny decided to leave college and focus on his rock career. Their success kept him busy, and both he and Joy were feeling stressed. They had a lot of money, but Harry was struggling with a drug problem. After 18 months, they took a break. Johnny asked Joy if she wanted to have kids. She smiled at him, went to the bathroom, and got rid of her birth control pills. 3 months later, she was expecting their son, Robbie. They lived in a country house in Virginia that was good for just the two of them. Johnny thought about buying the place, which had 52 acres. The price was fair, so he went ahead with it. First, he built a modern recording studio. Then construction started on a big addition to the house. It took about 9 months to finish, just like Joy's pregnancy. Robbie and the house were both ready in the same week. Joy and Johnny made several studio albums, which sold pretty well. They wrote their own songs, and they were good. A year later, they welcomed a daughter, Mary, and then another daughter, Jane. As the years went by, their fame faded a bit, but Johnny's wealth grew because his earlier investments did very well. When Joy was 38, she released a solo album that was fantastic and sold a lot. It got lots of airplay everywhere. Her voice was better than ever. While she worked on that album, Johnny returned to practicing classical violin and guitar. He released a classical album that received good reviews but didn't sell as quickly. Their children were also doing well in both music and school. Robbie was 13, Mary was 12, and Jane was 10. They attended the local school but also had music lessons at home. Robbie was more of a sports person than a musician. Joy and Johnny were, in many ways, the kind of parents who stayed at home. But when Joy released her successful album, she began performing solo shows nearby in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. She fixed up their old RV and hired a local woman named Stephanie to drive her. The places where she performed arranged everything for her. At the farm, there were 2 helpers, Mo and his wife Ginny, along with a team for recording. Most of these helpers lived close by. Mo and Ginny lived just a half-mile down the road. One evening, Joy approached Johnny after the kids had gone to bed. "Johnny, I got a chance to go on tour. It's an all-star tour," she said. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means I would be part of a group with some famous musicians." "And you'd be the singer?" he questioned. "Yep. I'm feeling restless and I really want to do this. I know it might be tough for you, but Mo and Ginny can help with the kids." "How long will it last and who will be there?" "Well, it's 3 months to start, then a pause, and then 2 more months. It will begin on the East Coast and move west. We'll have buses and I'll use the RV. Is it rock music?" "Yes." "Who's going to be in the group?" "James Black will play drums, Harmon Kitty on keyboards, Mookie Helfer on bass, and Brandon Wills on lead guitar." "Not me," Johnny joked. Brandon Wills was a very popular name in rock music and would be a big star on the tour. He was known for being a great guitar player. "Just think about it. I really feel I need to do something like this. I love our life, but this could bring me a fresh start." Johnny just looked at her, his gaze steady. As she began to look away, he walked into his office and she didn't follow. Inside his office, he looked up information about divorce laws in Virginia. While infidelity could be a reason for divorce, it wasn't something that was favored. He made a list of family lawyers in the area. That evening, a tense mood filled their home. Johnny stayed awake late, and he believed Joy was asleep when he got into bed. The next morning, he woke up early and got the kids ready for school. It was Friday, and they all enjoyed pizza for lunch, so there were no lunches to pack. Joy came down just as the school bus arrived to pick up the kids. "Good morning. Do you want coffee?" Johnny asked. "Thanks, I slept in. I must have been really tired," she replied. "Things are stressful now," he said seriously. She knew he was right, and they had to talk about the issue at hand. "Johnny, I promise I won't do anything wrong. Don't you trust me?" she said. "No," he replied. "Look, I understand what you're worried about. It's always said that things happen on the road, but I promise I won't cross that line. I'm strongly against this. Even if you don't do anything wrong, people will assume you have. It will impact the kids, and also our lives." "That's just gossip. We can work through it," she insisted. "How? The performances will be full of hints and rumors. That's how the music scene is. And this is also his decision. I kind of agreed to this, but there's a way out. How long have you been planning this?" It's been a month. There are papers to sign and contracts. I needed to make a choice." "What's the way out?" "You have to give your approval. Our things are in both our names, but a lot is in your name alone. If you say no, we can't use it." "No." He turned and walked away. "Wait, Johnny, These guys have already rented places here and they're ready to start. It's too late, you have to agree. No, I don't. What do you mean they've rented houses? We thought we could use the studio to set everything up. You know, everyone would come during the day to work. And at night? They'd just go home. I say no. Joy, there's no way you can tour with this guy and not get involved. That'll hurt your family. For sure, it'll hurt your marriage. It's almost there now. You don't mean that. You can't. Why not? Are you really saying you'll spend 3 months with Brandon singing those songs and not get close afterwards? That's not possible. I won't, Johnny. What can I do to prove it? Anyway, I own half of some of our songs. I need them. Show me all the contracts and papers. I'll think about it. I need to know a week from today. That's not enough time. You could have told me sooner. This is all messed up. I think we're done talking right now. Oh no, don't be like this. When they arrive, you can watch all the practices and see that nothing will happen. Johnny walked away. The next day, he went to see 2 lawyers. One talked to him about what might happen in a divorce. Johnny could keep the farm since he bought it before they married. He would also keep his investments from before the marriage unless they were mixed together. They weren't. But Johnny was most concerned about the kids. The lawyer said he had a good chance of keeping them where they grew up. Joy would be on tour a lot soon if she went, which could help Johnny's case. The other lawyer talked about the rights to the songs they made while touring. She said the ones Johnny copyrighted were his. The others, with both names, could be tricky. That was fine with Johnny. The songs he owned were the ones they performed in a very appealing way. He had 5 of those. He thought they could find ways to change the songs or cover older songs. Still, it gave him a slight advantage. He returned to the farm just in time to meet the kids off the bus. Joy was in the house making coffee when they all came in. Brandon Wills and a man in a suit were at the kitchen table. Honey, this is Brandon Wills and our tour manager, Larry Bright. They met to talk about the upcoming tour and the plans for it. But you missed the meeting. I had to run an errand. How are you both doing? I asked the 2 guys. Brandon shook my hand and said, We're making progress. The tour starts in 6 weeks and we need to get the word out. I hear you're the main concern. Johnny was shaking Brandon's hand too. Their handshake was friendly, not aggressive. I'm really against the tour. More specifically, I don't want Joy to go. Bright asked, Why not? It's a sure way to make money. I have money. I have a family. I now have a wife. Listen, Johnny, I'm not trying to take your wife. Sure, things can get intense on the road, but I won't interfere with your life or family. But you're taking my spot on stage, right? I don't trust you. I don't trust Joy either. If she goes on this tour with you, things could get complicated. I don't want to lose her. Johnny, I'm not going to cheat on you, Joy yelled, clearly upset. I love you and our kids. I would never risk that for a tour. Johnny walked upstairs, leaving the others confused. He listened from the guest room above the kitchen. Joy, Brandon said. I don't know how to convince him. He's done tours before and things tend to happen. Yeah, but it was only with a couple of people. Still, that's 100%. Even with good intentions, things can come up. How do we prove to him that we can manage this? Bright added, We need those songs for sure. I checked and he owns the best 5. Joy chimed in. That's part of the problem. Those songs remind us of times when we got carried away. If you were in his shoes, would you want us to perform them? No, Brandon replied, looking down. Maybe we could write new ones. Bright suggested, What if we make a contract? Something to reassure him about the boundaries. If Joy doesn't stay true, there are consequences. Like what? Brandon asked. Like losing a lot in the event of a separation? Joy reacted, No way, not for a tour. If he can prove anything, he could still seek a separation, and my lawyer said he'd likely get the best outcome for the kids. So what do we have to lose? Her family, said Brandon. That means a lot. Brandon, are you thinking of bringing someone along? I could if that would help. I know some people. Sure, I'm sure you could. Maybe even a few. 3 is the most. Our RV isn't that big. Let's drop it. If he hears that, he'll lose it. He needs to mature. He doesn't own you, just your best songs. Maybe we can invite him along, Bright suggested. No, he won't watch the kids if I'm not there. We'll ask him to help get ready. He can see how it goes for himself. Bright said, "But how could he know what happens after the show? Security keeps people away, including him." Joy replied, "Johnny would guess something happened by the next performance. He'd pick up on it. It's hard to hide things from him." Brandon chimed in, "Maybe we can create some tension, just a little teasing back and forth, then step back. That could give the show a fresh feel. I did that once for a couple of weeks." "What happened then?" Joy asked. "Well, the usual. It's a tricky situation." The trio decided to invite Johnny to help with the show preparations. When Johnny came for dinner, Brandon was present, but Bright was not. Johnny asked, "Why are you here now?" His tone wasn't polite. "I wanted to invite you to help with the preparation. We're starting tomorrow. Are you in?" "Sorry. I might drop in occasionally, but if Joy goes on this tour, it will be over for us. I can't help with that. I hope you keep that in mind. Where is she?" "She's at the studio. I wanted to assure you that I have no intentions towards her. No trust. I don't really know you. I know your reputation. I understand how touring works. If she goes, it's over. I plan to tell her tonight before you all get too involved." "Can't you see reason?" Brandon asked, feeling frustrated. Johnny went outside and they walked toward the studio together. Suddenly, Johnny paused. "One more thing. If I find out that you and Joy are together while we're still married, I'll make sure you regret it. I can't say how or when, but it will happen. So it's not just her that's at risk. That's a threat. You can't say that to me. Your word against mine. No hard feelings. Right now I feel like my marriage is falling apart. I can't think of many ways to save it. Maybe if you stepped back. I can't do that. I need the money. I have a lot of responsibilities. That's your choice." Joy came out of the studio just then. Brandon entered, feeling uneasy. He had never been threatened like that before, and he believed Johnny meant what he said. He decided right then that he would stay away from Joy, no matter what. Later that night, Johnny talked to Joy about the tour again. "Joy, I don't think you understand. I want to be very clear. If you go on this tour, I will get a separation order and file for divorce. I say that because I believe you'd find someone else while you're away, so it would be over. You know there's a good chance of that happening, yet you still want to do this. To me, that means you want to leave. Want the good life you used to have? Johnny, you're being weak. If our marriage ends, it won't be my fault because I won't cheat. So save your anger for something real. I won't do it. You're just upset because they didn't invite you. Jealous. Okay, I've said my piece, and you've had yours." The band arrived the next day at 10 a.m. Johnny was about to finish recording a violin piece. Their presence outside the soundproof room didn't bother him. He finished the song, stood up, and saw 4 guys clapping outside the glass. He took a bow, then went outside and met the rest of the band. He left them to work on their music. They took a break for lunch at 1. Joy had arranged for catering. They were all sitting outside with some smoking. The other band members were curious about Johnny, who had a big reputation. Jimmy Black asked Joy, "Why did Johnny seem so down this morning? Have you talked about it?" Joy smiled at him. "We've talked. He doesn't want me to go." Mookie snorted. "I wonder why." His sarcasm was clear. "What are you going to do? I don't want to waste time here," Mookie said again. "I'm going, but I don't think we'll be able to play his songs." "That's too bad. I saw your songbook and your concert video. It's clear he has his reasons. Joy, you're a mom and I guess a wife. I don't want to be part of any trouble. Maybe I should leave." "Me too," said Harmon. Brandon said, "You guys signed the papers. You have to follow through. I promise nothing will go wrong between me and Joy that could hurt her family. I have a good reason to stay away from that. The guy said he'd hurt me if I messed with his wife. He means it." Joy looked shocked. "Don't worry. Everything will be fine. He wouldn't know how to hurt someone. Maybe we should." "No. Reporting it would only get him into trouble." "Not always. It'd be his word against mine. But remember that if anything happens to me." They finished lunch. Johnny was watching the afternoon rehearsal live on his laptop. He thought they did well, but he didn't like one of the new songs that might upset Joy. Then they played an even worse one. It was supposed to be the last song. Brandon purposely toned it down a bit that time. "What's up with you, Brandon? You're getting soft," Mookie said, giving him a hard look. "Again," he replied. They played once more. Joy and Brandon blended well. Johnny just watched. When the song ended, the band packed up their things and moved to the foyer. They picked up the discussion from lunch. Harmon said, "Those last two songs, if I was Johnny and saw them, I'd be worried." Joy said, "No worries." The guys left, and as Brandon walked to his motorcycle, he stopped and faced Joy. "It could be a problem later. Just saying." "No, Brandon. No. We finish what we start and then leave the stage." Rehearsals carried on for several weeks, and the band improved. Johnny watched from time to time. He had a feeling about what would happen, but he didn't know how to change it. One day he spotted the other three members taking a walk. Joy and Brandon were nowhere in sight. As he approached them, they looked uneasy. Mookie said, "We were just discussing Joy and Brandon and how they might feel about the tour. None of us is okay with this. Is there something we can do to help?" "I'm not sure. If all of you quit now, it might not fix anything. I don't know. It feels like it's already decided." The next day, all three of them walked away for good. This caused a big problem. Brandon and Joy rushed into the house while Johnny was having a late breakfast. "You jerk!" Joy shouted. "You made this happen. It's your fault because of your jealousy." "What happened?" Johnny asked, genuinely curious. "They left. All three of them. They wrote a note saying they couldn't handle the situation with you and the kids. I guess they care about the kids. And it's because of you." Brandon interjected. "Did you say anything to them?" "No. A few weeks ago, they talked to me about the family issues. I told them I thought things were beyond fixing. I figured they would understand and leave it at that. Just a sad situation." "Oh, Johnny, please bring them back." Joy's voice broke as she started to cry. "I'm thinking of filing for divorce tomorrow. If they hear that, they might return because it would all be over now." "You can't divorce me? I haven't done anything wrong. I just thought maybe that could bring them back here. We might be heading for divorce anyway, with or without the tour. You don't seem to care for me much right now, and it's clear you don't love me anymore. So why wait? Please, Johnny. You know I love you. I fell for you the first time I heard you play, and I love you even more now. Don't do this." "Joy, okay, do you have Mookie's number?" Johnny called Mookie and asked him to come back along with the others. After a serious talk where Johnny promised the band's participation wouldn't harm their marriage, Mookie agreed. Johnny realized that if Joy didn't go on the tour, she would hold it against him forever. He didn't see how their relationship could last if she viewed him as the reason she couldn't chase her dreams. On the other hand, he thought maybe she could do the tour without feeling betrayed. It was a small chance, but he had hope. So he made sure everyone knew he thought the tour should continue. He asked his lawyer to pause on the divorce papers. Rehearsals wrapped up, and they were ready to go. At this point, Johnny barely noticed the final rehearsals, checking only at the end to see how they finished. It always bothered him. Johnny set it up so he could watch all the concerts on his smart TV. Their first stop was Philadelphia, where they had 2 shows. He watched closely and was pleased. The band performed well and received good reviews, though not overly enthusiastic ones. All the venues were sold out. Johnny paid special attention to 2 moments. At the end of the first hour, Joy and Brandon performed a duet with a catchy tune. They finished with a beautiful harmony. Then, there was the grand finale at the end of the encore. He watched that closely, too. In those first 2 shows, he saw nothing that made him doubt Joy's loyalty. They had 1 show in Harrisburg. Everything seemed fine there, too. Next up was Pittsburgh. The first show in Pittsburgh didn't raise any of Johnny's concerns. But when he saw the duet at the end of the first hour of the second show, he understood something was wrong. Joy didn't last that long. Johnny had arranged for Mo and Ginny to stay overnight when the tour had performances. He told them he would be away for a while. He prepared his truck, packed a small bag, and set off for Pittsburgh. The drive would take about 4 hours. Johnny arrived in Pittsburgh around 3 in the morning. He found the venue and spotted Joy's RV parked nearby. He had forgotten his cell phone but had brought a small camera. He parked his truck near the fence and used a horse blanket to cover the barbed wire. After climbing over the fence, he quickly scanned the area for security and found nothing. There might be cameras, and he wore a hoodie just in case. He hurried to the RV door. He knew Joy had changed the electronic lock code, but he had a device that could help him figure it out. It worked quietly, and he slipped inside. He walked cautiously down the short hallway and peered into the bedroom. Brandon was lying next to Joy, and they were both asleep. Johnny snapped a couple of low-light photos. He noticed an ice bucket in the living area with some melted ice and 2 open bottles of wine. He set the wine aside and took the bucket to the bedroom. Johnny was angry and acted quickly. He poured the icy water over both of them, which caused a lot of noise. Brandon jumped up, and in a moment of frustration, Johnny swung the bucket at him. Brandon fell to the floor. Johnny glanced at Joy, who looked confused. He pulled Brandon off the bed. Johnny took control of the situation, and Joy shouted, "Don't hurt him, Johnny, please!" She tried to reach out, but he easily pushed her back. "This is your fault," he said calmly, and she recoiled in shock. He then grabbed Brandon's arm and positioned it on the floor. Johnny looked at Joy again. He tripped and fell down the stairs. "If I see the police, you're both in trouble. Otherwise, this is it. Enjoy your time." Johnny pulled Brandon to the door and opened it, leaving him halfway down the stairs. He dropped a wine bottle on the ground and a bucket inside the RV. Johnny quickly returned to the fence, climbed over into the truck bed, pulled off a horse blanket, jumped back into the front seat, and drove away gently. He was on his way home. For a while, Johnny drove on autopilot, wondering how long it would be before the police caught up with him. Maybe they would stop him on the road. He just followed signs to DC. After about 2 hours, he started to feel more awake. He noticed his breathing was fast and shallow, and he began to shake. He pulled into a rest area as dawn broke. He sat there for a bit. When it was fully light outside, he stopped shaking, started the truck, and drove home. No police bothered him. Johnny arrived at the farm around 8:30. The kids were getting ready for school, and he gave them hugs. Ginny made him some toast and eggs for breakfast, and he ate gladly. After that, with a cup of coffee, Johnny thought about what to do while waiting for the police. He decided to record some violin music. It might be his last chance in the studio. To his surprise, it went really well. The feelings he had held back came through in the music, helping him relax. He silently told himself that whatever would happen, would happen. He started singing an old Doris Day song and laughed for a long time. After recording, Johnny chopped some wood for a while. Lunch was ham and cheese, and he chopped more wood before fixing his acoustic guitar. It was nearly time to pick up the kids. Johnny turned on his computer and searched for news about Brandon. He found a story about how Brandon fell down the stairs, hurt his hand, and got some other injuries. His tour with the rock band was canceled. Tickets would soon be refunded for next month's shows. Johnny smiled, but still expected the police to come. He walked to the bus stop to pick up the kids who had heard about the tour. They asked when their mom would be home. Johnny said he didn't know, which reminded him to check for messages on his phone. After snacks and setting the kids up for their homework, he checked Joy's phone location. It was still in Pittsburgh at the arena. He felt unsure about what that meant, so he decided to call. The phone went to voicemail. "Joy, I heard the tour is off. I'm wondering when you might return. The kids are asking." That was all he said. Ginny cooked burgers and coleslaw for dinner, a family favorite. After they ate, his phone rang. It was Joy. "Hello? Hi, are you okay? Are you home?" "Yes. And the kids?" "Okay, I wonder when you'll be back." "I spent a long time talking to doctors in Bright." "Yeah, how's the boyfriend?" "Brandon isn't doing well. He has a head injury and his hand is really hurt." "Oh no. That's all you have to say?" "Yep. The kids are asking when you're coming back. They heard the tour is on hold." "I'm unsure. I feel bad about all this. I'm a little scared." "Well, let me know when you decide. This is a safe place for you. No worries. I probably won't be able to stay too long." "Why?" "Hold on. We can talk more when I get home. I'll leave today. The tour can't go on unless we find another guitarist." "Oh, man. Come on, Johnny." "And you?" He hung up. Joy came home after 2 in the morning. She parked the RV and stayed inside. In the morning, Johnny got the kids ready for school, telling them not to wake their mom. Then he went to the studio and recorded more violin music. Bach. It went really well, again. He noticed Joy through the glass when he finished. "What's up, Joy?" "You've got to be kidding me." "Yeah, you and your guy didn't last long. You both had it coming, but I didn't want to hurt you. Anyway, I didn't hurt him like I said I would. I was foolish to go, I see that now. Everyone knew it too. Brandon waited until I felt I needed him. I'm sorry for everything. I kept the police off you. Thanks. How did you manage that? They saw him on the stairs, the paramedics. We got him to a smaller private hospital. They told me he might not play again. You shouldn't have done that. It wasn't all his fault. No, most of it was on you. I don't believe you didn't intend to be with him. I think that was part of why you went. And I don't buy your excuses. It's all lies. The only one who was fooled was me. You had a plan, didn't you? For when you learned that we were together. Did you think I would just ignore it? I wasn't thinking straight then after the show. It was a mistake. Then you did it again. You'd have kept going until someone made you stop. It seemed exciting to you. You're a star. You should know. What now? Are you looking for someone else? Who would it be? Bright listed some guys. Not really going to happen. I mean it when I say I'm sorry. I wanted excitement, and I thought I could handle it. And I was just supposed to stay home with the kids? That's what I plan to do now. You can find a place nearby, maybe rent the one he used to have. I can't stay here? Why not? I told you what would happen if you left for the tour. We're in the past. You need to find another place. I'll give you some time. You can take the RV. Johnny, can't we just forget about this and work it out? I do love you. I never loved anyone else. Definitely not Brandon, Johnny said firmly. No fixing this. You had plenty of chances to make things right. You ignored them all. Who knows when you'll do it again? Probably the next time you get restless. It wasn't about that. I was feeling unsettled. I wanted excitement, audiences, and the attention that comes with being around famous people. Yeah, I guess so. I'm sorry. But you ended it quickly. Not quick enough. You can stay over there by the well. No chance for us? None? No. I'm sorry. Joy stayed for 3 more weeks before renting a small place about 2 miles away. During that time, she slept in the RV. When she finally moved out, the kids were sad, but she was still close enough to see them every day. About a week after Joy moved, Johnny had divorce papers served to her. That night, she came over crying, and he let her inside. Can we change the papers to say irreconcilable differences? Putting adultery in there will only make things worse for both of us. It hasn't hit the news yet. I spoke to my lawyer. It could still be changed. Johnny thought about it, then called his lawyer to make the change. The divorce was settled quickly. Both of them had enough money, and they agreed on custody. Joy was close by, so they decided on joint custody, with Johnny being the primary guardian. During this time, Johnny released a classical violin album, which was well received and sold a good number of copies. He donated the money to the local orchestra and even played a concert with them. Preparing for the concert and performing brought him a lot of happiness. Joy and the kids attended the concert too. After the concert, Joy brought the kids home, and Johnny arrived shortly after. She was now allowed into the house again. Once the kids were in bed, Joy sat on the living room couch, looking up at Johnny. Who would have thought? Johnny Good, classical musician. Oh, never mind. What is it? Are you okay? Not really, she said, her voice low. Johnny, I miss you. I haven't been with anyone since the tour. She stood up, looking unsure for a moment, but Johnny, remembering the good times they had shared, found it hard to resist. They sat together on the couch, close but quiet, reflecting on the complicated feelings between them. After a long pause, Joy quietly said, We've been through a lot. Let's just take things one step at a time. She gave him a teasing smile, but Johnny stopped her gently. Enough, Joy. I need to think about all this. You should go home for now. I'll see you tomorrow after the bus leaves. Joy pouted but eventually left, and Johnny, feeling drained, picked up his clothes and went to bed. The next morning, Joy was at the house early. The kids were still there, excited to see her, and she walked them to the bus. Johnny had spent a lot of time thinking about his relationship with Joy. He knew for certain that he would never marry her again. He wasn't looking for a committed relationship with her, but maybe they could stay close for a while, at least for now. Today seemed like one of those days. When she returned from the bus stop, Johnny motioned for her to follow him upstairs. Things escalated quickly, and Joy took charge, something she always preferred. Johnny had planned to avoid letting her lead, but a cramp in his leg forced him to let her take control. The moment between them felt intense, and afterward, even his cramp seemed to have disappeared. Afterward, they showered and got dressed. Ginny and Mo, Johnny's friends, gave them curious looks. "It's not what you think," Johnny said, laughing. "We just needed to freshen up before heading to the studio." The room burst into laughter. Once at the studio, they sat down to talk. "Joy, I want to be clear about something," Johnny began. "You're incredible, and I can't deny that I'm drawn to you, but we're never getting married again. I won't ask you to be exclusive, and I won't make that promise to you either. You can be with whoever you want, but if you do, I need to know so I can take care of myself. Understand?" Joy nodded. "Same here. If you're with someone else, just tell me." "Also," Johnny added, "no staying over. I don't want the kids to get the wrong idea. Maybe if they're away at camp, but not otherwise." He laughed, and Joy laughed with him. The next day, Johnny got a call from an old friend, Ginger Baker. Johnny answered the phone. "Hey, is that Ginger Baker?" "Yes, it's me, Johnny. Well, I'm Ginger Rogers now. I married Billy Rogers." Johnny chuckled. "Ginger Rogers, huh? You always looked better than Ginger Baker anyway. How are you?" "I'm doing okay," she replied. "I've been divorced for 2 years now. I have my son Jimmy, as you know." "Right, Jimmy must be about 13 now?" 12, actually. We're still in College Town. I heard about your divorce from Joy." "Yeah, she went on that tour, even though I asked her not to. You can guess what happened." "I figured. Joy's a great singer, but she's always been a bit impulsive. Still, I've always liked her. How are the kids?" "They're doing well. Joy lives close by, so they see her all the time." "And you? Do you see her much?" "We've kept things simple. We're just friends now, nothing more. I don't let her stay over when the kids are around. It's all about keeping things clear for them. What about you and Billy? Do you see him?" "Sometimes. It's a bit random. That's why I called. I might need a favor. Can you help me with some studio time?" "Sure. Tell me more." "I've written some songs. I have a small band here. We need to practice and record, but it's tough around here. I don't want to interfere with your work, you know." "Don't worry, you won't disrupt anything. Maybe you'll even help improve things. When do you plan to come, and who will be with you?" "Just me, Jimmy on drums, and a bassist. I play guitar, too." "Are you doing something like Tedeschi?" "No, just trying to earn some extra money for Jerry's college. We want to come when school is out, around mid-June. Is that okay?" "Perfect. Here's the address." This conversation happened in late May. A week later, Johnny mentioned it to Joy after they spent some quality time together. He was starting to enjoy these midday moments. Joy seemed to enjoy them too. They were getting along well. They stuck to their new arrangement, but there was nothing in the rules about seeing other people. Johnny had only been with Joy since she returned, and he thought she was only with him too, though he didn't ask. He trusted that she would let him know if things were different. Johnny said, "We had another great time, but I should say, Ginger called last week. She wants some studio time in mid-June. I said yes. She has a 3-person band and wants to get polished and record some tracks." "Okay. I'd like to see her. It's been a while. How is she?" "She seems all right. She's divorced now. Her married name is Ginger Rogers." Joy smiled at that. "She's always been lucky. Maybe you can find some extra space. It'll be her, her son, and 2 other band members." "I have an idea. I can bring out the RV for her and..." "Jimmy, right?" "Yes. What about the other 2 musicians?" "They can stay in the back room at the studio. It's comfortable enough and they can shower there. How long will you need it?" "Not sure yet. I'm just really glad to see her again. I have many good memories. Don't get upset." "I won't. I liked her in school. She was 2 years behind me, but we lived close. She could sing even back then. Her voice was better than mine for most things. It still is. I have a rock voice. She has a great voice, too. You have the best rock voice out there for anyone. That's a real talent." Joy smiled at his compliment. Ginny arrived with her group. Her son Jimmy was also a redhead and quite big for his age. He and Robbie became friends right away. It seemed like Mary liked Jimmy too, which made Johnny chuckle. The real surprise when Ginny arrived was that her 2 bandmates were women, Joyce Green on drums and Lacey Green, no relation, on bass guitar. Joyce was a strong-looking woman in her early 30s. Lacey was a soft-spoken, blonde, and cheerful young woman, while Joyce had dark hair and an olive complexion. Ginny made sure they were comfortable in the room next to the studio. Meanwhile, Jimmy and his mom, Ginger, moved into the RV. However, Robbie offered Jimmy a spot in his pull-out bed. which left Ginger staying in the RV alone. Despite its past, Johnny had learned to overlook any bad memories tied to it. They all enjoyed a casual dinner together, with hot dogs and burgers. The atmosphere was pleasant, and everyone got along well. Johnny noticed Lacey and Joyce seemed especially close, and later learned they were a couple. By 9:30, the kids were off to bed. Lacey and Joyce headed to the studio shortly after. Meanwhile, Joy and Ginger were sitting together, a bit relaxed from the night, reminiscing about their high school days, laughing and teasing each other. Johnny watched them, feeling a sense of nostalgia. Ginger, wearing a casual tube top and short skirt, glanced over at Johnny. Joy, in her sleeveless dress, looked effortlessly beautiful, as always. "You know, Johnny's always been like this," Joy teased, laughing. "I swear, we're probably the only women he's ever been close to." Ginger raised an eyebrow at Johnny. "Is that true? Just the two of us?" Johnny smiled, but kept things lighthearted. "Yeah, just the two of you. Never both at the same time, though." His response was playful, but they all kept the conversation light and easygoing. The evening continued with laughter and shared memories of old times, and they soon called it a night, leaving the playful banter behind as everyone headed to their rooms. Johnny couldn't help but reflect on how much things had changed, but also how, in some ways, they had stayed the same. She turned toward Joy and gently sat down on Johnny's lap. Their connection was familiar, as they had shared moments like this before. Joy watched for a moment before lying down beside them, resting her head near Johnny. She softly kissed his skin, letting the closeness between the three fill the room. Johnny could feel her presence, even though his attention was divided. Ginger's breathing became deeper, and soon after, she sighed in contentment. The moment felt powerful for all of them. Johnny could sense the intensity building between them, a quiet bond that didn't need words. After a while, the connection grew stronger, and the energy in the room felt overwhelming for a few seconds. They all shared in it, feeling a sense of unity. Once they were finished, they collapsed onto the bed, catching their breath. After a few moments of quiet, Johnny spoke up. "I think I'm done for a long time," he said with a tired smile. "I don't think it gets any better than that." The women laughed softly. Joy teased, "Well, that just leaves Ginger and me then." Ginger chuckled too, saying, "Maybe we should bring in the rest of the band." They all shared a laugh before drifting into a peaceful sleep, exhausted from the night. The next morning, Johnny woke up with both women on either side of him. He couldn't help but smile at the peacefulness of the moment. He wondered how things might play out, but for now, everything felt calm and balanced. There was no jealousy, just a shared understanding. The women woke up around the same time. They stretched and exchanged sleepy smiles, then decided to freshen up. They all brushed their teeth, exchanging a few playful looks, enjoying the easygoing comfort between them. The lightheartedness of the morning was refreshing. As they finished getting ready for the day, there was a feeling of playfulness in the air. They laughed, teased, and shared quiet moments of connection. The trio felt at ease with one another, comfortable with the newfound dynamic in their lives. With the morning behind them, they focused on the day ahead, ready to move forward and see where things would lead. Johnny was working hard on the music. Ginger finished her part and Joy quickly joined in. Johnny kept playing, increasing his energy, and wrapped up with a smile. The three of them stepped into the big shower to cool off. They realized they needed to eat. Mo and Ginny were taking care of the kids at breakfast, and when the three adults came downstairs, the kids gave them curious looks. Johnny said, "Let's save questions for later. Time for food." After the kids were settled outside, Johnny, Ginger, and Joy went to the studio. Ginger set up with her bandmates. They had 3 songs they wanted to work on that day. Joy and Johnny helped with the sound equipment. The session continued until lunch, and they recorded all 3 songs, though they weren't final versions yet. Johnny arranged for lunch to be brought outside to the studio table. He said with a mouthful of sandwich, "I have some ideas, if that's all right." "Me too," said Joy. This sparked a conversation about how to make their afternoon sessions even better. When they went back inside, Johnny picked up his guitar. Joy also entered the glass room, and they left the recordings on. The 5 of them created an upbeat version of the first song. Johnny suggested, For the next song, Joy and Ginger should sing together with the guitar adding a twist. He showed them how, and though the two women started off a bit differently, they soon found their rhythm. The mix with Johnny's gentle guitar was wonderful. The same magic happened with the third song, a lively one. Joy's strong voice blended beautifully with Ginger's high notes, creating a unique sound, while Johnny played along with effortless creativity. Everyone felt truly excited. Ginger said jokingly, "How about we plan a tour?" Joy and Johnny exchanged glances. Johnny replied, "Let's think about some local gigs in D.C. Nothing too big. Maybe at the Oak Tree. We would need to prepare about 15 more songs." "Speaking of which," Ginger said, "I'm really hungry." They all went back to the main house where the kids were busy playing video games. Dinner was tacos, and everyone enjoyed the meal while the kids took a break from gaming. Once things calmed down, Johnny and Joy went outside to chat. It felt like a natural choice. Joy asked, "So, are you ready to dive back into rock music after exploring other styles?" "Definitely, but we should start small with local shows, just overnight for now. It will take us some time to shape a proper show, but I don't see myself doing anything too large or national," Johnny replied. "What did you think of Ginger and Joy's singing?" "They were good. Not entirely polished, but they'll improve with practice. I have some songs I wrote that might fit well with Ginger. I really like how we sound together." "Awesome. We can work on them here and maybe have a gig in August right before school starts." As they moved back inside, they passed the Greens who were watching the sleeping kids, and a sense of excitement filled the air. Johnny said, "Let's go upstairs to brainstorm. I think it'll really help our sound." The women laughed, feeling the fun of the moment. Ginger playfully tapped the front of Johnny's pants, smiling. "It looks like there's plenty to work with here." A few moments later, they were all settled in the big bed, laughing and relaxed. Ginger and Joy knelt on the edge of the bed, playfully moving around, as if they were waiting to see who Johnny would choose first. With a grin, Johnny did a quick "eeny, meeny, miny, mo" and tapped Joy. She giggled as he came over to her, and they shared a passionate moment, enjoying each other's company. Not long after, Ginger took her turn, and the connection between them felt just as strong. Afterward, Johnny sat back in a chair, letting the two women enjoy each other's presence. They continued to share in the warmth of the moment, exchanging soft kisses and hugs. As Johnny watched, he asked, "Did you two know each other back in high school?" They glanced over at him with a knowing smile, but didn't answer directly, just enjoying the closeness between them. Later, Ginger sat on Johnny's knee, making him smile with a playful touch. She gave him a quick kiss on the cheek and said with a grin, "That's enough for tonight. Time to rest." That night, they all slept peacefully together in the big bed. When Johnny woke up the next morning, he noticed Joy and Ginger spooning next to him, arms draped comfortably around him. Johnny thought briefly about whether he should feel jealous, but realized there was no reason for it. They all shared something unique, and it worked for them. They got up in time to help the kids with breakfast and start the day. The morning was spent fine-tuning the first few songs they had worked on, and by the afternoon they focused on 2 of Joy's pieces. The music was coming together perfectly, and Johnny even brought in a sound engineer to help with the technical setup while they played. Although they all shared the same bed at night, it wasn't always about passion. Some nights were quiet, with Johnny simply watching the two women share a tender connection. Other times, they took turns, but everything felt natural and relaxed. Johnny noticed that the music seemed to flow better, the creativity sparked by their closeness, something he had known from past experiences. One day, Johnny booked a one-night show at the Oak Tree, a venue in a nearby suburb of D.C. He felt the band was ready and arranged for the performance to be professionally recorded. Everyone felt a little nervous as they arrived at the venue, except Johnny, who was always calm when it came to playing music. The setup was professional, and the crowd packed the place. From the moment they stepped on stage, the show was a massive success. The band kicked things off with a high-energy rock song, and the audience was hooked from the start. Joy and Ginger were flawless, and Johnny's guitar played the perfect supportive role, adding depth to the music without overshadowing the vocals. He didn't see himself as the star, just someone who helped bring it all together. His guitar riffs held the songs in place, making everything flow smoothly. The band, GJ and Jay, finished up a great rocker, and then the two women sang a slow song without any music. Johnny played a short piece to finish it off. There were no encore songs. After the performance, they hurried to the RV. The Greens were in a van with their things. Everyone was excited. They started their drive home, which took about 90 minutes. The next morning, the show got amazing reviews, which the band saw later in the day since they all slept in, enjoying a Sunday off. School was about to begin for the kids. Ginger registered Jimmy at the local school and rented out her house in Pennsylvania. The four children had spent a long, fun summer together. Jimmy had made friends and was happy to stay, even though he missed some of his old buddies. After discussing their plans, Johnny arranged another nearby concert in a larger venue at a local university. That show sold out too. It went just as well as the first, with the addition of a couple of new songs, including a blues number where Johnny got to really show off his skills. Joy sang with him on that one. Ginger felt good about how things were going. She wasn't getting rich, but she was doing better than before. The two women had developed a close bond. They both cared for Johnny, but their main focus was on each other. Johnny was fine with this. He felt included. They all shared the same bed, and everyone noticed the change in their relationship. Life was full of surprises. The Oak Tree Live album topped the charts. Things were going well. As for Brandon, he hadn't yet regained his ability to play the guitar due to nerve damage in his hand. He did tour where he sang and did okay, but he ended up declaring bankruptcy because his expenses were too high. Johnny knew about this, but didn't feel the need to help because Brandon's situation was his own doing. He sometimes wondered why he hadn't heard from Brandon or the police, guessing that maybe Brandon didn't fully understand what had happened to him. Time passed, and Johnny stopped worrying. He started to think that he might be in a better place now. Ginger surely was happier, yet he felt he had lost something because of Joy's actions. There was a closeness that seemed to be gone, and he doubted it would return. Johnny never thought of marrying either of the women. It just didn't seem necessary. He wanted to focus more on his classical violin playing, which brought him peace and happiness. He enjoyed rock and blues, but at home with the two women, he sometimes needed a break. He would go to his studio and play the violin. At one point, he decided he wanted a piano player and contacted a friend who had helped him with his classical album. He received a recommendation for a woman who was available that month. Lily Baxter came in for an audition. She was about 30, 5'6", slim, with light brown hair. She had a nice face, wore no makeup, and dressed simply for the audition like a friendly neighbor. When he saw her, they went to the studio together. He handed her some music, which she played easily. He asked her to join him for a short piece for piano and violin. She played perfectly, maybe even better than he expected. Her piano added depth to his violin, both in the background and as a leading part at different times. Together, they finished the piece. "You're hired if you'd like the job," Johnny said with excitement. "I would," Lily replied, feeling very happy. She had played backup for some big orchestras and had performed at several recitals with string groups. Still, her income wasn't steady. This job offered a chance to record and save some money. It came with a place to stay, meals, and a good salary. The contract was for 6 months. Lily didn't have children. She had married her college boyfriend at 22, but he had been unfaithful, and she left him. He didn't want kids, which worked out well. Lily wasn't alone in her life. She was attractive enough and could find companionship when she wanted. Occasionally, she would meet someone at a dance hall or had an on-and-off relationship with another piano player. Her divorce was 4 years ago. Since then, her social life was better than during her marriage, but it wasn't very steady. She knew about Johnny's history with rock music and the stories written about his past relationships. This intrigued her. She also knew that Ginger and Joy lived nearby, but didn't know their exact situation. They performed locally and were selling a lot of music in today's different ways. She had heard the Oak Tree recording and believed Johnny was involved with both women, which piqued her interest. Lily settled into a small house at the edge of the property. Johnny had cleaned it up for her. It was about 3/4 of a mile from the studio. Lily brought a bicycle, and Johnny left a car there for her to use if the weather was bad. In the mornings, between 8 and 11, Johnny and Lily practiced and recorded. Everything was going well, sometimes even better than expected for classical violin. After 2 weeks, they had completed 6 tracks. The afternoons at the studio were reserved for the rock band's practices. They had another gig planned at a downtown university in 3 weeks. Ginger began coming by to watch Johnny and Lily practice. She was curious about how they worked together while playing. To her surprise, it was not that different from the way the rock band interacted. While they weren't doing anything suggestive, they had a strong connection, both in music and outside of it. Ginger noticed this and felt a hint of jealousy. She asked Joy to come over and see for herself. Joy was surprised by the connection between Johnny and Lily at the studio. She wondered if Lily was trying to win Johnny's attention. She didn't think much of it. She figured that the two of them simply liked each other and enjoyed making music together, just like Joy, Ginger, and Johnny did. Rock music had a bold vibe, while classical music had a more subtle charm. She couldn't identify exactly what was going on, but she knew there was something. She started to imagine what it might be like for Johnny and Lily to be close after a concert. Maybe it would be elegant and smooth, but then she thought it might be gentle and sweet, and that made her feel uneasy. She realized she had no claim on Johnny. She had let that go during a moment of weakness. She didn't have a reason to be jealous. After all, she mentioned to Johnny about seeing him with Ginger often. But this felt different. Johnny and Lily usually shared lunch at the studio before the rock musicians arrived for their afternoon sessions. One day, Joy and Ginger brought sandwiches. They sat with Lily and Johnny, chatting about the morning's practice. It was nice to talk about music with fellow musicians. At that moment, Lily thought about Joy and Ginger and their close relationships. She knew Johnny had mentioned that he shared a bed with them when they first met, so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The idea didn't bother Lily at all. In fact, she found herself curious about what it was like to be with Johnny, or even all of them. Some nights, while alone at home, her thoughts wandered there. One Friday, she asked Jen felt comfortable without one. It was easy to see. Johnny noticed right away. He had been thinking about Lily a lot lately, and it was clear he was attracted to her. She was lovely and easygoing, but there was also something about her that intrigued him. But he didn't want to disrupt the friendly music connections they had. However, Johnny wasn't the type to ignore temptation when it arose. Lily's outfit sparked his interest. After dinner, there was a noticeable tension in the air. Lily finally spoke up. "Johnny, I know you spend the night with Ginger and Joy. When you finish a concert, do you just go off with them right away?" "Yes." "Both of them?" "Yes, and they're together too. Rock music is all about passion." "Oh, I know. Well, classical isn't quite the same, but that doesn't mean we classical musicians don't have our moments, you know." "I never thought that." Their eyes met, and she stood up, feeling the moment shift. She took his hand, and he stood up with her. "Can you treat me like I'm a rock star?" she asked with a playful grin. "Absolutely," Johnny replied with a smile. They quickly moved to the bedroom, laughing and embracing, lost in the moment. The atmosphere was light and full of excitement as they shared a close connection, both savoring the time together. Afterward, they lay side by side, catching their breath, the room quiet and calm. "That was amazing," she said, smiling at him. Johnny smiled back. "Glad you enjoyed it. It's been a while since I felt something that special." They relaxed in a dreamy, peaceful state, just enjoying each other's company for a while. After some time, they got up, laughed about cleaning the dinner dishes, and playfully teased one another as they worked. "Am I the best you've ever had?" she asked jokingly with a smile. Johnny chuckled. "You're definitely unforgettable," he said, keeping the mood light. They continued to talk and laugh, enjoying the easy, carefree feeling between them. As they moved to the living room, the playfulness carried on, and they spent the rest of the evening just enjoying their time together. Later, as they sat on the couch, she turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "You know, you can always count on me," she said softly. "Anytime, anywhere." Johnny smiled and responded, "That's an interesting idea, but in music we always wait until after the show." They both laughed at the playful remark, feeling the warmth and closeness of the moment. Maybe classical music will change things. "Are you going home now?" "Yeah, I need to be there in the morning. I'll see you at 8. Don't wear anything too fancy. We'll see what happens." Johnny gave her a quick kiss and left. He got home at 10:30, where Joy and Ginger were waiting. They noticed right away that he looked happy. "Did you have a good time?" Joy asked, with a teasing tone. She and Ginger had spent some time together a bit earlier. "I doubt I can do much more tonight, but I can try," Johnny replied with a grin. "What will happen to us poor rock stars?" Ginger joked, pouting playfully. She didn't mind Johnny's attention on Lily. Maybe she could connect with her too. She wondered what kind of fun they could have together. Joy wasn't in a joking mood. She knew Johnny liked Lily a lot, and she felt that Lily could change everything. Johnny didn't really need the money they made from touring, and neither did she. But she loved the excitement of it all, performing, the energy of the crowd, and expressing herself through music. Joy felt uneasy thinking about Lily. It was clear Johnny had spent time with her, and she didn't want him to develop strong feelings. Recently, she had come to realize that she still cared for Johnny deeply. Even though she felt like she had messed things up, her feelings didn't go away. "So," Ginger asked playfully, "how was it with Lily? Was it fun?" "She was. Interesting," Johnny said, trying to keep things light. "I enjoyed myself, but I can't share too many details." "It's all right, Johnny," Joy said. "We figured something would happen after seeing you two together in the studio. Did Lily charm you, or was it the other way around?" "She definitely made the first move when she invited me to dinner," Johnny said. Ginger laughed. Wow, bold move on her part. They all chuckled, but Joy didn't feel entirely at ease. She worried about Johnny's growing interest in Lily. "Seriously, what will you do? Are we all going to take turns?" Joy joked, but her heart wasn't in it. She couldn't shake the worry that Johnny might fall for Lily. She liked how things were with Johnny, even if they were still figuring things out. They shared the same space, even if it felt complicated at times. Joy still cared for Johnny deeply. He was someone she had loved and still wanted to be close to. Now she still loved him, but he was free to do what he wanted. She knew she was also free to find someone else, but she only wanted Johnny. Her experience with Brandon had taught her that. He wasn't even worth it. If she lost Johnny, she could find someone else, but she worried that Johnny would fall for Lily and start a new life with her. She didn't want to start over with anyone else. If only she hadn't gotten distracted. Johnny spent the night watching Ginger and Joy. They teased him a lot about it. Even though he found it interesting, he tried to stay focused. 3 women in one night didn't seem right, and he wanted to think about Lily until they got to the studio the next day. When he arrived at the studio, Lily was wearing a sundress and sandals. She smiled at him, and he felt a strong attraction. She twirled, showing off her confidence, and that was too much for him. Later on, he would think about how easily he was tempted. But right then, all he could think about was her. He turned Lily around and pushed her playfully against the piano. He couldn't resist brushing against her, and she seemed ready for what was happening. She began to feel lots of excitement from what they were doing. It felt intense, and she started to enjoy it more with each moment. She made sounds of pleasure, expressing her enjoyment, lost in the moment. Johnny couldn't last long. After a strong moment between them, he stepped back and handed her a tissue. He watched her clean up as she tossed the tissue in the trash and sat down at the piano. She started to play a blues song. It began softly and grew more powerful. When she finished, Johnny clapped for her. Suddenly, he heard more applause from the booth. The lights turned on, and it was Joy and Ginger cheering for them. "We wanted to see what you two were doing in the studio," Joy said with a grin. "Seems like you were having some fun," Ginger added. They stepped out, and all 4 of them stood there, taking it in. Joy was surprised that Lily didn't seem embarrassed at all. In fact, Lily could barely hide a smile when they noticed. "Sorry, ladies. This was just an experiment to see how the music would flow," Lily said. "Well," Joy replied, "it looks like you really found your blues. Maybe Johnny helped bring them out." "No, I can play the piano. I can play anything on it," Lily said confidently. Lily smiled as she explained, "I just felt the mood, so I played that." She didn't seem the least bit embarrassed. Joy, always full of energy, chimed in, "Play more, let's hear something else." Lily grinned and started playing an old blues tune she knew, "Shoes Under My Bed." Joy immediately recognized the song and joined in, singing in her deep, soulful voice. "You left your shoes under my bed, should have been my husband's there instead, but it's your shoes under my bed this morning, baby. If he stays out all night doing things he knows ain't right, then I'll have your shoes under my bed every night." As the music flowed, Johnny picked up his violin and joined in, adding a smooth, bluesy feel to the tune. Ginger provided backing vocals, blending into the song beautifully. They played together seamlessly, the music wrapping around them. After a few minutes, the song gently faded out, ending with a soft blues riff from Lily. Johnny was amazed. "Wow, that was incredible. We could make a blues album. How many songs do you know, Lily?" "Quite a few," she replied with a smile. "I used to play for some extra cash. Blues is all about timing and feeling, especially with the singer." She glanced over at Joy, who returned the look with a knowing smile. Johnny, sensing something else going on, said, "Wait a minute." But Joy cut him off playfully. "Don't worry, Johnny. You just need to keep playing in the background and step in when it's your turn." Then, to Johnny's surprise, Joy leaned over and kissed Lily. It was unexpected, but the moment was full of warmth and connection. Ginger, seeing the scene unfold, approached Johnny and gave him a hug, pulling him into the closeness of the group. As the energy in the room shifted, they shared quiet, playful moments with one another. The atmosphere was full of laughter, lightheartedness, and friendship. After a while, Ginger, with a teasing smile, said, "So, should we get back to making music?" Johnny chuckled, picking up his violin again. He started playing a slow, intricate melody, building up the tempo as he went. Lily, still caught in the moment, picked up the rhythm and played along on the piano. Ginger grabbed an acoustic guitar, adding some soft background chords, while Joy hummed, her voice rising and falling with the music. The room was filled with creativity as the four of them let the music take over, forgetting everything else as they played. As Johnny finished playing the last note of the song, he signaled for a soft stop. Silence filled the room. Lily stood up, looking a bit surprised by everything that had just happened. The others were more used to the wild energy, but for her, this was all new. She grabbed her dress, clearly processing the moment. "I think I need a shower before we start our regular practice," Lily said, heading towards the back room where the shower was. She carried her dress with her, but suddenly tossed it onto the piano. "Why do I even need this right now?" she muttered, and went into the shower, leaving the sound of running water behind her. Joy, noticing the shift in energy, said, "She probably needs some time to think. Let's just get dressed and wait for her." Ginger added with a smile, "You know, I bet Lily would be amazing as our keyboard player. Maybe we should recruit her." After a little while, Lily returned, drying off with a towel. Seeing that everyone else was dressed didn't seem to bother her. She casually tossed the towel aside, walked around for a moment, then picked up her dress and slipped it on. "You're all a bunch of weirdos," she joked, "but I had fun." Johnny smiled and said, "All right, let's see how we do with that sonata." While Joy and Ginger watched, Johnny and Lily set up and played a 6-minute sonata together. When they finished, the women clapped. Johnny reflected, "It had a lot of depth. Not perfect technically, but there's something special there." "Agreed," Lily replied. They continued recording 2 more pieces while Joy handled the sound and Ginger observed from the control room. By the end, Johnny and Lily were exhausted. "Let's grab some food," Johnny suggested. They all headed to the house and made sandwiches together. As they ate, Joy asked, "What are we going to do about this? I mean, the 3 of us might overwhelm Johnny, plus we need to focus on the music. I think Lily should try playing keyboards for us." Johnny was thoughtful. He cared about Lily, just as he did about Joy and Ginger. Despite everything that had happened, he felt a sense of protectiveness toward her. Lily, considering the idea, said, "Playing keyboards might be a stretch for me, but I'll think about it." Ginger, always practical, said, "Why not give it a try? I have a few songs that could use some keyboard or piano. Let's head back down and set up." They returned to the studio, and Lily gave the keyboard a try on one of Ginger's songs. After a couple of run-throughs, she had it down, and they recorded a take. Lily turned out to be a natural. "I'd like to try one with a real piano," she said. They switched to the piano, and once again it worked beautifully. After that, Johnny picked up his banjo and started playing a lively reel. Lily jumped in, and they ended the session on a high note, met with applause from the others. It was time for the kids to get home from school. Lily went to pick them up, and soon the group was busy with snacks, dinner prep, and occasional glances at each other, still riding the energy from the music. Dinner was lively, with the kids catching on to the upbeat mood. By the time the children were in bed, it was already 10 o'clock. 4 adults sat together in the living room, unsure of where the night would lead next. Johnny, breaking the tension with a grin, said, "Well, we've had quite a day. What's next? Maybe we just focus on the music for a while. I might make it through, who knows?" This caused everyone to laugh. "Let's head upstairs and see what happens." Joy walked up without saying anything else. The others followed her. They quickly got comfortable and settled on the bed. It seemed they all agreed to focus on Johnny. He felt overwhelmed. One of them was very close, and he recognized it was Lily. He hardly had a chance to take it all in. Joy said, "Okay, now that's done. Let's..." She playfully turned her attention to Lily. At the same time, Ginger joined Joy, and they formed a little circle around Johnny. He watched in amazement. His feelings grew again. Ginger approached him, and they shared a moment together for a while. The other two were lost in their own world. Eventually, they all fell asleep. The next morning, Joy was all ready with Johnny before the other two woke up. After everyone had a shower, they enjoyed breakfast with the kids. The kids seemed aware of the sleeping arrangement, but didn't mention it. Then off they went to school. Later, the 4 musicians went to the studio to create music, focusing on their work without distractions. Maybe there was a little kissing, but nothing more. They spent 4 hours recording and ended up with 5 songs. They created 2 blues tracks, one featuring the banjo and 2 rock songs. After lunch, Johnny and Lily practiced a few classical pieces. This went on for 2 weeks. Johnny should have been tired, but he wasn't. Instead, he continued to make great music and enjoy evenings with company. They all agreed not to get too involved during studio time. Johnny planned a show at the Oak Tree for 10 days later. He told the management it would be a special event, and they liked the idea. They could make a lot of money since Johnny always drew a crowd. Advertisements went out and tickets sold quickly. The band kept practicing. They had a set prepared that was about 90 minutes long by the performance date. It was a Saturday, and Mo and Ginny took care of the kids. Johnny opened the show by telling the audience they would be mixing things up that night, showcasing a variety of styles. He and Lily started with a slow blues instrumental. Then Ginger sang a high note from behind the piano. The piano picked up speed, Johnny started playing a blues melody, and Joy sang with her distinctive voice. The piece went on for 7 minutes, ending softly with just Johnny on the violin. The audience was captivated. Cheers erupted. The rest of their performance received plenty of enthusiasm, too. Johnny's banjo piece was a hit, and even when he played a brief violin song, everyone enjoyed it. The finale was an energetic rock number. They didn't do an encore and quietly left through the back to the bus, where things naturally flowed back to Joy and Johnny at the center of it all. An hour after the show ended, they called the driver and headed home. The show received great reviews. Johnny thought deeply about where things were going. The day after the Oak Tree show, Lily invited him to dinner at her house while they were at the studio. "Ha!" Joy laughed. "She wants him all to herself." "I do want that. I have my reasons. It's not about you guys," Lily replied. Johnny said, "I could really use some time focusing on just one woman. I accept." So that night, Lily and Johnny went to her home. She quickly made burgers for dinner. Then they shared a tender moment together. They started with gentle touches and connected softly. It felt special for both of them, ending with Johnny expressing his enjoyment of the experience. "Wow," he said, "I really liked that." "Me too," Lily replied. "I wanted to show you my feelings. You know I care about you. I feel the same way, Lily. I'd like to be close to you." "What about Joy and Ginger?" she asked. "You know, Ginger is a wonderful person, but I've never thought about being just with her. Joy and I were married, but that didn't work out. If we were exclusive, could you be loyal to just me?" "Oh yes, I could do that if that's what you want. I'm almost 31 and I want to have a child with you if you're okay with it, married or not." Johnny was surprised at first, but then he felt very happy. Lily's words warmed his heart. "Okay, Lily, I would love to start a family with you. I'll marry you if that's what you want." "I accept. I'm glad to hear that. I look forward to being with you." So they shared a special connection again. Lily enjoyed every moment, as she always did. Afterwards, she asked, "Are we really getting married?" "Yes," Johnny reassured her. "Will we still see Joy and Ginger?" "Would you want to do that?" he asked. "Well, maybe occasionally. I enjoy it, but I like being with just you more. We'll let them know once I get a ring." The next day, they went to town together and picked out an engagement ring and a wedding band. Johnny thought about how, after his marriage to Joy, he should be careful with another commitment. But he felt confident this time. He sensed that Lily was different from Joy. They spent the next 2 days at the guest house, then invited Joy and Ginger into the main room of the big house. "Lily and I are getting married," Johnny announced. Joy gasped. "Oh, congratulations, I guess." Tears formed in her eyes, and Ginger wrapped her in a warm hug. "Joy, I hope you can understand. I still care about you and Ginger, but I want a chance with Lily. She wants a baby, and I'd like that too." Joy said, "It's okay. I'm happy for you. But what about our time together? You know, with me and Ginger, I was getting into the whole group thing." She was still tearful. "We talked about it, but haven't made a final decision. It would definitely happen less often." "Well," said Joy, "maybe we should enjoy it while we can." So they did. Johnny thought it would be great for Joy and Ginger to perform together with the Greens. He noticed how well they blended their voices. He worked on 2 songs for them to practice at the studio as the wedding approached. The recordings of those 2 songs turned out to be so captivating that the women decided to create an entire performance set. By the time Lily and Johnny got married, they had a show ready. The wedding was small, with family, friends, and loved ones. Lily and Johnny went to London for their honeymoon, as Lily always wanted to visit the city. They had a wonderful time. When they got back, they settled into their guest house. Once home, Johnny listened to the new girl group's set. He believed they had songs that could be very successful, but he felt they needed something special, a lead guitar. Ginger was okay, but her singing was much better than her guitar playing. However, Johnny didn't want to tour with them, and he didn't want to go back to Oak Tree either. After thinking it over, he decided they needed a new guitar player. That's what he told them. They went to the studio, and Johnny showed them how the new parts would fit in. He persuaded them. Joy said, "But if you won't do it, who will?" "Yeah, it's one thing to convince us when you're the one playing. It's different if someone else is there," added Ginger. Johnny asked, "Guy or girl?" The women hesitated, especially Joy. She wanted a guy, a good-looking one. Everyone knew why they were hesitant. They worried about the new guy getting too close with both of them, especially if they were on tour. Johnny smiled and said, "Just take it easy on him if it's a guy. Start slow." "Come on, Johnny!" Joy stormed off. She had been okay with sharing Johnny before, thinking of him as her husband. But now he was married to Lily and suggesting she could go on tour with someone else. That was what caused problems in the first place. Now he seemed okay with it. That's why she got upset and cried. In her mind, that moment was the breaking point for them. She felt Johnny wouldn't allow Lily to be with some lead guitar player. She sulked for days. Ginger spent a lot of time cheering her up. The main message was that she needed to move on. Johnny still cared for her, but she was no longer his first priority. Ginger finally said, "Just move on." After 10 days, the girl group practiced with Johnny, and he found a potential new member thanks to Ginger. "I heard a guy playing guitar on the State U radio last night. He was really good, but he's just 20. His name is Wayne Brody. I got his picture and made a demo tape from what I heard on the radio." The group listened to the tape. Johnny got Wayne's number and called. "Is this Wayne? Wayne Brody?" "Yep. This is Johnny Good." I was. "Really? Johnny Good is calling me? Who is it, really? Wait, here's Joy." Joy took over the call with her recognizable voice. She made Wayne believe that Johnny was the real deal. "Why did you call?" "We want you to come here and audition for a tour the girls are preparing. I can't do it myself." "What tour? When?" "We're getting a show ready with Ginger and Joy singing and our backup band, the Greens. We need a lead guitarist. I've been filling in for now, but I can't continue. We're looking to start with some local shows in D.C. and then go up and down the East Coast. It'll be 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off. The schedule depends on the bookings and the band's needs." "Got it. When do I need to come?" They arranged to pick him up at the airport the following Monday. Johnny wanted to meet Wayne alone first. as he thought Wayne might be too new to understand the situation. When Johnny met Wayne, he was impressed. Wayne was about 6 feet tall, weighed around 180 pounds, with black hair and dark eyes. Johnny thought he would fit in well with the two women on stage. They got in the car, and Johnny stored Wayne's bag and guitar. Johnny started, "I need to talk to you about the tour. How much experience do you have?" "A little bit, mostly in college with a band, then some shows in D.C. This tour will require good teamwork." "Yeah, I saw an article about you and Joy and that other guy. I don't want to deal with those kinds of issues." "That was some time ago. Joy and I are divorced now. I married again last month. But I was married to Joy when she took that tour that ended our marriage. She's free now." "I understand. What about Ginger and the Greens?" "The Greens manage fine on their own. Ginger is also free." "What do you mean by that?" "Just that whatever happens between you three is up to you. I care about them and I've been close to them, but their choices are for them to make. I support them going out. I suggested it. Just remember, I'm married now." "Got it. Now, let's talk about the music." They kept discussing that for a while. Wayne's audition went well. He played beautifully, showing his youth and excitement. The two women watched him closely. After the audition, they all had dinner together at the house. Wayne received a job offer that he accepted. Johnny placed him in a room at the end of the kids' hall. Meanwhile, he and Lily went to the guest house, curious about how things would unfold, but tried to put it out of their minds. The next morning at breakfast, Wayne returned from a run just as Johnny and Lily arrived. Breakfast was served and everything felt normal. Later, they all went to the studio to practice. Wayne seemed to click with the women that day, leaving Johnny intrigued. He didn't ask any questions. As the week progressed, the music improved significantly. Johnny planned to drive them to the Oak Tree show on Saturday and watch from the soundboard. Each day, their music sounded better. Wayne was more anxious than Johnny before the performances, and Ginger noticed. She smiled at him, took his hand, and led him into the bus before the show. They emerged half an hour later with Wayne looking much calmer. Ginger had a big smile on her face while Joy seemed slightly annoyed. Johnny figured Joy would have her chance soon. The concert went exceptionally well, with Wayne's guitar skills shining through. Johnny was very pleased. After the encore, the three performers walked into the bus, not in a hurry. After giving them some time to unwind, he returned to find them relaxed and changed out of their concert clothes, all smiling. Johnny thought, okay. He drove back, and they talked about some technical aspects of the show. The new group called themselves Green Pieces, and they lined up several local shows, all of which went smoothly. Wayne seemed to have settled into the bigger bedroom. Johnny felt mostly relieved, but he admitted to a hint of annoyance, though not strongly. They planned a 6-week tour, and in 2 weeks they would leave. Johnny and Lily were preparing for a new baby. Ginger felt a bit uneasy about leaving Jimmy, but he reassured her, and that was settled. During the tour, Ginger and Joy kept in touch with their kids through video calls. Johnny and Lily moved back to the main house, into the big bedroom. Lily soon discovered she was pregnant, with a positive test just before the return of the others. Both she and Johnny were thrilled. When Joy and Ginger returned, they looked tired but happy. Their tour had been a success, earning good money and praise. Wayne stayed for one night before heading back to his college town. The Greens were off for an extended trip in England, where they had also done well. Johnny and Lily invited Joy and Ginger over for a nice dinner, and afterwards, they gathered in the big room. Johnny asked, "So, how did everything go?" Wayne left pretty quickly. Joy and Ginger exchanged laughs. Joy replied, "We had a great time with him. He was a big part of our journey, and he really enjoyed it." "I think he was embarrassed, which is why he left so quickly," Ginger said with a laugh. Lily looked intrigued. "What do you mean? I'm curious. Tell me more." Ginger smiled, leaning in a bit. "Well, we used to call him the Energizer Bunny. After one of the shows, we brought him back to the bus. Things escalated quickly, and I was on top. He was a bit too eager, though, and I started teasing him, telling him he needed to do better. That made him try harder, and we just kept pushing his buttons. Joy joined in on the fun, and we had him completely wrapped around our fingers." Johnny noticed Lily's reaction. Her curiosity had clearly grown. Joy, noticing as well, chuckled. Lily, what was it about that story that caught your attention? Lily blushed slightly but smiled. I guess it was just the idea of having that kind of control. Sorry, she added, glancing at Johnny. Ginger grinned. Looks like Johnny might have some work to do to keep up with his wife. Johnny stayed quiet, letting the conversation continue. Lily asked, What else happened after that? Joy laughed and replied, Oh, nothing too wild. We had fun, but it was all playful, really. We just knew how to keep things interesting. Johnny raised an eyebrow at Lily, teasingly adding, Don't get any ideas. The room filled with laughter, but there was a subtle shift in the air, a sense of anticipation. Joy then stood up with a smile. I think it's time we all head upstairs and just see what happens. Without a word, Lily stood up and took Johnny's hand, pulling him gently toward the stairs. Joy and Ginger followed, keeping the mood light and playful. As they all headed upstairs, Johnny couldn't help but feel outnumbered. But there was an ease in the air, and everyone seemed to be enjoying the moment. They were all close, with a shared connection that didn't need to be rushed. 8 months later, little Elizabeth Good was born, a healthy and happy addition to the family. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to Infidelity Plus to stay updated with more captivating tales of infidelity and payback. Turn on notifications so you're the first to see our latest content.